All right, today we are diving deep into a really powerful book from 1962, Erich Fromm's Beyond the Chains of Illusion. This is a fascinating look at his encounter with two absolute giants of modern thought, Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud, and what their ideas can tell us about our own freedom.
So, Fromm starts with a question that honestly gets right to the heart of modern life. He asks, are we really free? Or are we actually living inside a comfortable prison, tied up by illusions we don't even know exist? It's a question that feels even more relevant today than it did 60 years ago.
Fromm grabs this quote from Marx and basically uses it as the master key to unlock the entire book. What it means is you can't just decide to stop believing in illusions. It's not that simple. To get to real freedom, you first have to figure out why you need those comforting illusions to begin with.
So what exactly are these chains of illusion? Well, Fromm, pulling from Marx, calls it a kind of false consciousness. It's this idea that so much of what we think of as reality is actually a distorted picture. A version of the world that conveniently stops us from seeing the truth about our own lives and our society. For instance, there's a common belief that huge wealth is always just the result of hard work. That idea can completely mask all the systemic factors at play and lead people to just blame themselves for their own economic struggles.
Now, this is a pretty radical idea, right? Fromm is suggesting that our conscious thoughts, the reasons we tell ourselves for why we do things, are often just stories, they're rationalizations. And meanwhile, the real things driving us, the real structure of our society, that stuff stays hidden, buried deep in our unconscious.
But how does an entire society buy into the same illusions? I mean, if we're all living in some kind of shared dream, what stops us from waking up? Fromm's answer is a concept he calls the social unconscious.
Okay, think of it like this. It's a giant, invisible filter that our culture builds. It lets all the acceptable ideas and feelings pass right on through into our collective awareness. But anything that might challenge the status quo, anything seen as dangerous or disruptive to the social order, that gets blocked. It gets repressed before we even have a chance to think about it. For example, in a lot of workplaces, the whole idea of questioning the norm of being constantly available, it's not just frowned upon. The thought barely even comes up. That is the social filter doing its job.
And this quote just nails how that filter works in the real world. See, it's not some grand conspiracy. It's more like a collective self-censorship. We learn, without anyone ever directly telling us what's safe to think and what's safe to feel, all to avoid that one primal fear, being cast out, being totally alone.
So, living this way, with our reality filtered and disconnected, what's the human cost? What does it do to us? Well, Fromm says the #1 symptom of this modern sickness is something he calls alienation.
Alienation is this really deep feeling of being separated from our true feelings, from our work, even from each other. Instead of being the active creators of our own lives, we become these passive objects, these things that are just acted upon by the systems we built. You know that feeling when you're endlessly scrolling through social media? You feel disconnected even though you're connected to thousands. Or a gig worker who's managed entirely by an algorithm. That feeling, that is alienation. Fromm uses this incredibly powerful metaphor of idolatry to really explain what alienation is. He says we pour our creativity, our energy, our very life force into making things. Money, companies, technology. And then, what do? We turn around and worship these creations as if they have some kind of power over us, completely forgetting that we were the source of their power in the first place. Okay, so if we're all trapped in these chains of illusion and alienation, is that it? Is there any way out? Is there any hope? Well, for Fromm, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. He lays out a path forward, a way for us to wake up and take back our full humanity. Now, the solution isn't some magic pill. It's the hard, courageous work of developing what he calls critical awareness. It means using our own reason to cut through all the noise and see the world as it actually is, not just as we're told it is. And crucially, it takes guts. It takes the courage to disobey, to question, and to reject those comforting lies.
And here's the bottom line, the most crucial point. Real freedom isn't just about not having physical chains on you. It's about intellectual and emotional liberty. True freedom is decided not just by what you're allowed to do, but by what you're able to see. Even though this was written back in 1962, Fromm's diagnosis of our world feels more urgent than ever. His work doesn't just explain the world, it challenges us to fundamentally change our relationship with it. And it leaves us with this final, really personal question to carry with us.